Let me tell you something that, honestly, changed the way I garden forever. A few years ago, I watched my neighbor spend hundreds of dollars on bagged garden soil, premium compost, and soil amendments, dragging all those heavy bags from his car, tearing them open, mixing and measuring. Meanwhile, I was just raking up a massive pile of fallen leaves from my backyard maple trees and, well, feeling a little guilty about how little effort I was putting in. Fast forward about 8 months, and my garden beds were producing rich, dark, crumbly compost that I hadn't paid a single cent for. My neighbor? He was back at the garden center. Me? I was out back sipping coffee, watching earthworms do the heavy lifting. That's the core philosophy here at the Soil House, working with nature instead of against it. And today, I want to share one of the most underrated, overlooked, and, frankly, magical gardening secrets there is, turning fallen leaves into free, premium garden soil. No fancy equipment, no expensive inputs, just leaves, time, and a little bit of know-how. Walk into any garden center in spring, and you'll see the same scene: shelves stacked with bags of premium garden soil, aged compost, and organic matter. And those products aren't bad necessarily, but they are expensive, they come wrapped in plastic, and here's the kicker. What's inside those bags is remarkably similar to what's already falling off your trees every autumn for free. Fallen leaves are organic matter, pure and simple. They're packed with carbon, trace minerals, and the raw ingredients that soil microbes absolutely love to break down into humus. That dark, spongy, nutrient-rich material that makes garden soil feel like chocolate cake. The problem is that most people either bag their leaves up for curbside pickup or burn them. Both options are, essentially, throwing gold into the trash. The leaves your trees drop every fall have spent an entire growing season pulling minerals up from deep in the soil through the tree's root system. Those minerals end up locked inside the leaf tissue. When leaves decompose, all of that goodness gets released back into your garden. You're essentially getting a free mineral supplement delivered right to your doorstep every single year. The specific product we're making from leaves is called leaf mold, and if you've never heard of it, prepare to have your mind blown. Leaf mold is simply decomposed leaves, and unlike hot composting, which requires turning, balancing greens and browns, and monitoring temperature, leaf mold practically makes itself. The decomposition of leaves is driven primarily by fungi rather than bacteria. This means you don't need to add nitrogen-rich materials, you don't need to turn the pile constantly, and you don't need to monitor moisture obsessively. Fungi are slow, patient decomposers. You pile the leaves up, keep them roughly moist, and leave them alone. That's genuinely it. The end result, after about 12 to 18 months, is a dark brown, earthy-smelling material that has an almost miraculous ability to improve any type of soil. Now, it doesn't dramatically boost nutrients like compost does, but what it does do is transform soil structure. Leaf mold is honestly one of the best soil conditioners in existence, and gardeners who discover it rarely go back to buying bagged amendments again. Here at the Soil House, we're all about keeping things practical and realistic. So let's talk about exactly how to make leaf mold without overcomplicating it. First things first, collect your leaves. Autumn is obviously prime time, but don't panic if you miss the big fall drop. Leaves gathered at any point will work just fine. Rake them up, blow them into a pile, or simply drag them from wherever they've settled. If you're using a lawnmower to collect them, even better, because shredded leaves decompose significantly faster than whole ones. The smaller the leaf pieces, the quicker the fungi can break them down. Next up, build your pile. You have a few options depending on your space and, your aesthetic preferences. The absolute laziest method is to stuff the leaves into black garbage bags, add a splash of water to get some moisture in there, poke a few holes for airflow, and then stack those bags somewhere out of the way. By next fall, you'll have beautiful leaf mold ready to use. If you want something more structured, build a simple wire cage from chicken wire or hardware cloth. Just form a circle or square, fill it with leaves, and walk away. That's your leaf mold bin. Moisture is your only real job. Leaves will decompose slowly if they dry out completely. Every few weeks, or whenever you happen to walk by, give the pile a check. If it feels bone dry, add some water. You're not trying to make it soggy, just consistently damp, like a wrung-out sponge. If you live somewhere with regular rainfall, nature will likely handle this for you. Wait, this is the hardest part for eager gardeners, but it's also where the laziness pays off. Whole leaves take 12 to 18 months. Shredded leaves can be ready in as little as 6 to 8 months. You can speed things up further by occasionally turning the pile, but this is strictly optional. Set a reminder, forget about it, and be pleasantly surprised when you come back to dark, crumbly goodness. Once your leaf mold is ready, it looks and smells like a forest floor. Earthy, dark, and just slightly wish. At this point, you've got an incredibly versatile soil amendment on your hands, and there are several excellent ways to use it. The most straightforward approach is to work it directly into your garden beds. Spread a 2 to 3 inch layer over your planting area and dig or fork it into the top 6 to 8 inches of soil. Doing this before planting transforms compacted, struggling soil into something loose, well-draining, and biologically alive. Earthworms find leaf mold irresistible, and wherever earthworms show up, soil quality improves dramatically. You can also use leaf mold as a mulch. Just spread about 2 to 3 inches around your plants, and it'll suppress weeds, regulate soil temperature, retain moisture, and slowly break down further, feeding the soil beneath it all season long. Honestly, this is one of the most satisfying uses because you're basically recreating what happens naturally on a forest floor, where fallen leaves protect and nourish the soil ecosystem year after year. Leaf mold also makes an excellent seed-starting mix component, since it's light, holds moisture well, and is low in nutrients, which can actually burn delicate seedlings. Mixing it with a bit of sharp sand or perlite creates a beautifully airy medium for starting seeds. Gardeners who've switched to this approach often say they get better germination rates and healthier early seedling growth. One question that comes up constantly in the gardening community is whether all leaves work the same way. The short answer is yes. Most leaves make excellent leaf mold. Oak, maple, beech, birch, and most deciduous tree leaves are ideal. They break down reliably and produce a consistent, high-quality product. So, the leaves you'll want to use in smaller quantities, or just avoid in large amounts, are walnut leaves. They contain a compound called juglone, which can actually inhibit plant growth in certain species. Also, thick, waxy leaves, like those from magnolias or holly, decompose really slowly because of their tough structure, so it's best not to overdo it with those. And hey, if you've got mostly oak leaves, don't worry too much about their acidity. The decomposition process actually neutralizes the pH quite a bit, and the final leaf mold product ends up pretty close to neutral. Pine needles, well, they're worth a separate mention. They do break down eventually, but just much more slowly than other leaves. Plus, they create a more acidic end product, which honestly is perfect if you're growing blueberries, azaleas, or any other acid-loving plants. So you might want to consider making a separate pine needle pile just for those specific beds. What I love most about leaf mold, and, honestly, the entire philosophy we talk about at the Soil House, is that it shifts the focus from feeding plants to feeding soil. When your soil is thriving, packed with microbial life, good structure, and organic matter, plants mostly just take care of themselves. You end up spending less money, less time, and honestly, less energy fighting problems that simply don't show up in healthy, living soil. Every single bag of leaves you turn into leaf mold is a step toward a more regenerative, sustainable garden. You're closing a loop that industrial gardening broke wide open. Leaves fall, leaves decompose, soil is nourished, plants thrive. It's the cycle that's been running in forest for millions of years, and hey, your garden can tap into it starting this weekend. You don't need a perfect setup. You don't need special tools. You just need leaves. And chances are, you've probably got plenty. Start a pile in the corner of your yard, stuff some bags, or build a quick wire cage. Do it this weekend while the motivation is fresh, and in a year's time you'll be pulling out your own free, homemade premium garden soil and, honestly, wondering why you ever bought the bagged stuff. If this article got you excited about the potential sitting right there in your leaf pile, I'd really love for you to join the community over on the Soil House YouTube channel. We go deep on soil science, composting, regenerative gardening techniques, and all the practical, real-world stuff that actually makes a difference in your garden. Subscribe so you never miss a new video. And if you found this useful, share it with a fellow gardener who's still raking leaves to the curb. Let's change that one garden at a time. Garden.